Let's watch Jessica Tarlov having to shut down her MAGA co-hosts for their continued attempts to lie and defend Trump and Doge and their illegal actions at all costs, despite them supposedly being defenders of the Constitution. Hey you, yes, you, we now have a Substack website where you can help support the channel. For just $8 a month, you can get daily articles exposing the chaos in Trump's first 100 days, a weekly podcast, and other exclusive perks, all while helping the channel grow and defend democracy. This is something that's not just very important to me, but enables us to get our message out to the most amount of people while also being just a genuine passion that I would love to pursue. So for those who have been wondering how to support the channel, how to help us grow, you can sign up now at the first link in our description. Thank you, and let's get back to the video.
Just like Jesse said, what's Elon Musk going to do with Social Security numbers or anything else?
Well, I think there are two issues at play. The constitutional crisis here is that Congress has been subverted. So these are congressionally appropriated dollars. And we've seen this over and over again in the federal judges that have ruled on this. They're not saying that there aren't programs that don't deserve to be axed. They're saying that these aren't dollars that the executive can decide what to do with. There's a process to go through. On the accountability front, yeah, we have a government accountability office. We also have a big spending database where you can go in and you see where the dollars are going, and they should have conversations about programs that have got to go. But Elon Musk, he's not a forensic accountant. He's a scientist.
He has no real qualifications for the job, and his morals are questionable at best. I mean, he's straight up a neo-Nazi, right? And he's hiring 19-year-old neo-Nazis and then rehiring after public backlash to not only gain access to your sensitive information, but to that of his competitors as well. That obviously helps him directly financially, which is probably his main goal, but also who knows who he's sharing it with. The entire party is in Putin's pocket. Elon, we know himself, has personally had backdoor conversations with Putin that he won't even speak to. He very easily could be shipping our data to Putin because there is no transparency in what they're doing. We don't know, right? There is no accountability here. It's also just a bait and switch. More than likely, Elon isn't looking for waste and corruption. That's why he's misrepresenting most of the numbers that he's given you, right? That's why he's saying we sent $50 million to Gaza for condoms, when in reality, we sent $45,000 in oral contraceptives to Jordan. Most conservatives would probably be against that anyway, so why lie? Because it's about this bait and switch. What he actually wants to do is target these pivotal agencies that prevent him and his billionaire buddies from further extracting wealth from the middle and lower class. But he has to first make it seem like he's finding this massive corruption that then justifies it. So he starts with USAID, uncovering millions, and then he goes to the CFPB, which him and his buddies have already shut down. Then it's Social Security and Medicare. I mean, then it's the NLRB, the EPA, not the Pentagon, not the oil and tech subsidies, you know, where the real fraud and waste is.
But he has a number of minions who have not passed the same level of security checks that they should have in order to have access to that information. And I don't know what they're going to do with your Social Security number, or what they're going to do with Head Start or Medicaid or Medicare or anything else that they have access to. But the point is that they shouldn't. And you see that. Like, the big one from over the weekend was the freeze on the NIH spending. So I understand that there might be some overhead costs, the quote unquote indirect costs that you think are too high. But going to them and saying that indirect costs have to come down to 15% would completely hobble American innovation.
But without Elon Musk, we wouldn't know of any of.
Yeah, no, all of this is publicly available information on usaspending.gov. Literally anyone can find it, no problem. We've just given $7 million of our taxpayer dollars to give Elon a platform to misrepresent it. That's it. This also sets a rather insane precedent. Elon wasn't financially vetted, congressionally approved. There was no background checks or anything. He could be compromised by foreign governments, by financial influence, anything. This precedent it sets is wild. What stops, I don't know, a leftist president from coming in and saying, I want a Doge committee, and then appointing a lifelong communist with ties to the CCP, who then hires a bunch of 19-year-olds who post things like death to America online and instantly starts targeting ICE or the police or the size of our military. All of a sudden, then you could see how Republicans would see an issue with how this is unconstitutional and there's no checks and balances here. The problem is, Elon is this. He's just the inverse of it. He's a lifelong fraud with ties to apartheid South Africa who hired a bunch of 16-year-old neo-Nazis who bragged about being racist and doing Nazi eugenic stuff online just months ago, only to instantly go after agencies that benefit the middle class like the CFPB.
But
Money
you don't
going
know.
for transgenders.
But I'm not talking about,
operas.
I just said the NIH. I said the future of cancer research. For every dollar that the NIH grants out, you get $2.46 back, and they generate $93 billion a
And
year.
Trump
and then
just
you have
brought in $500 million.
No, well, first of all, Elon Musk even said that isn't real money.
Oh, it isn't?
Well, Elon Musk said it himself. He replied to the tweet. But Katie Britt, the senator from Alabama, had to go out there and say, no, don't take our NIH dollars.
MAGA is so dumb at some points it hurts. And I don't mean that to be insulting. They're just, I mean, it's literally, they're like, well, if we spend less on the equipment for medical research, they can spend more doing the research. But no, if they can't afford the equipment, if they can't afford to run the equipment, if they can't afford the safety protocols and things needed for the equipment to be run safely, and the training for the staff to have the wherewithal to use the equipment, there is no running the research. The trials just don't happen. These people know nothing about nothing. And it's exactly why you can't have dumbasses who don't understand anything but business come into things like medical research and try to run it like a Tesla or a SpaceX. The most expensive portion of research is obviously going to be the overhead. It's going to be the environment you're creating to have these trials replicate what you're testing for in real life. Do you think that we're going to do this with papers and pencils and wood? Like, these people have never been in a scientific lab before, and I think it shows. Allowing wider access to this exact kind of overhead allows for a wider range of research conducted by a wider range of professionals, more trials with more diverse thinkers carrying them out. If we take this funding away and all of a sudden only 2 labs instead of 200 can afford the equipment needed to run these trials, that research is then obviously all but halted for Trump's entire presidency. And we've had multiple universities, Stanford, Vincennes, lots of leading universities in these fields say that they would be losing hundreds of millions of dollars and effectively unable to operate in certain fields of research. Also, the State Department sent $25,000 as part of a program expanding U.S. culture and helping strengthen relationships with our allies abroad to fund an opera show that was about a trans woman growing up. But it wasn't like a transgender opera or I don't even know what that would mean. But opera shows have stories. This one just involved one single trans person. That was it. We just funded it being shown at a massive theater, essentially. This was already an award-winning opera in which we just awarded a grant to the producer of that opera. And it's largely just because trans people face discrimination in that region.